Hello guys and welcome to a new video. In today we are going to go through something that I occur very often within software development companies, and it is the founder or seniors in the business being 100% responsible for the entirety of the sales process. Sounds like a small thing and sounds like a common thing, and it is, but it's something that can be not easily eliminated, but it's something that needs to be eliminated from a certain point on, and it's something that you need to be aware of in order to actually get rid of in a later stage when you get to a process and when you get to a point of wanting to scale and wanting the founder to do more high level stuff and work on more result yielding work essentially. Before we dive in, if you don't know who I am, my name is Sven. I am the co-founder at Blink. Let me quickly move this out of the way. And together with my other co-founder and our team, we help software development companies to increase their revenue. We do this by essentially building out very high level. We build out your client acquisition systems, your sales process, your scaling strategy, whatever, everything that has to do with growing your business. And we've done that, for example, we just released a new case study video for our client index that's on our my LinkedIn profile. So let's dive into the video itself. I have prepared some stuff and I will also be going into just my mind spitting out information and stuff. So it might get a little chaotic, but I'm trying to structure the video as much as possible. So what you probably find at the moment and what the current process looks like for your business is that, like I mentioned, sales is completely reliant on the founder-led sales, as they like to call it, or on other seniors, and you are heavily dependent on them to actually deliver well and do their utmost and like work 120 hours a week in order to chase that new highest revenue month. What the other problem with that is that it is very difficult to replicate your results. If you as a founder or if you as a senior within the business are completely doing the sales process from A to Z, it will be very difficult for someone else to step in to the process and to replicate your results, because you have been doing it for a long time and subconsciously you know what to get out of certain calls and how you want to structure it, but usually you don't have the systematized processes in place to actually replicate those results and make it easy for other people to come into the business. On top of that, it's also salespeople leaving the business is usually due to not being able to resonate with the processes itself, and it's something that happens often, and it's something that is easily preventable by just systemizing your process and making sure that new people have the tools and the processes and the training materials in place to actually to even be able to succeed, essentially, because you can't expect someone to come into the business and perform without having them. How long did it take you, for example, to get to a point where you know your business is your business, or as a senior you have been there for a long time, so this has been your life essentially for a very long period, so you can't expect a salesperson to come in to get great results in 3 months, essentially, because they need to get that knowledge up and running, and without those processes documented it will be very difficult. So these are some of the old problems or the old things that you are probably experiencing. It's something that this is a commonly heard objection. I only know my product, which is, of course, like I mentioned, it's of course, it's not weird. It is your product, it is your business, but only you knowing the product and only you being able to sell the product is a problem. That is something that shouldn't happen, because you want to get to a point as a business owner where you scale the business, where you grow the business, and that is not doable if only you are able to sell your product. And I'll get on to you selling the product later on, because of course it's if you can't sell your product, that's a problem too, because if the founder can't even sell the product itself, no one else will be able to do so, because then the product probably sucks or you just suck massively at sales. The new process or the new results that we want to work towards is that as a founder or a senior, you only step into the sales process for the last 20 to 30%. So what that means is that the entirety of the sales process before those last 20 to 30% will be handled by someone more junior, someone that is able to do discovery calls, have contact time with prospects, and essentially take that workload away from you, so that you, with the deep product knowledge or business knowledge that you have, just step into the final, the final few weeks or the final phase of the entirety of the sales process to actually show the prospects that you're talking to, okay, I am the CEO, this is the process, this is the strategy that I have in mind for you guys, this is what we would deliver, etc., etc. I think this will all make sense. What we want to get to is a phase where others will get similar results. You will need some patience, and someone else will need time to get to replicating your exact results, but you want them to, you don't want tens of percent, I don't know, you don't want a performance difference of 50% between your sales rep and yourself, because that is something that will cost you a lot of money, and it is something that, again, is not easily, but it is preventable, and yeah, it is something that you can work on, definitely. It will become a systematized process that lives within your business for years to come, because what happens very often is that a business has never actually documented their sales process. So it lives within your head as a founder or in the heads of the seniors within the business, but it has never been put on paper and actually from a helicopter point of view looked at, okay, what is the process, who is involved, how many times do we, I don't know, follow up, how much time goes into X and into Y and into Z, what kind of softwares do we use, etc., etc. That's usually something that's not done. And on top of that, that is the documented version, but also the training materials that need to come with that process in order to successfully build your sales team and remove founders from sales. Overall, better performance across the board and more money in the bank, which is of course the end goal. So the current sales process will probably look something like this. You have a first point of contact, whether it be a referral, someone that came from ads, someone that came from an email, that came from a phone call, doesn't really matter. But what usually happens is you have that first point of contact, and from there on you kind of do some digging on, okay, what would you like to have happen, what are you looking to get built, what are the requirements, just formalities of, okay, what are we going to build out. Then you build a proposal for them and you send that over email, you send it to your prospect, and you follow up with them, you follow up, and you get into follow-up land, which is a really nasty place to be in, because what usually happens if this is the process, you haven't had enough contact time, or if you have, on average, people need a minimum of 7 hours of contact time with you and your business to get to a level where they trust you enough to buy. This is, of course, usually it's really difficult to do that manually, especially if you're talking to more people, because if you're talking to 5 prospects, for example, that's 35 hours of contact time that you need to do manually, which is, of course, really difficult. So what usually happens, if this is your process, then you probably get to a point where you hear one of these 3 things. Everyone is probably familiar with them, which is, now is not the time, we don't have the money, or looks great but no thanks. And a small minority, of course, will buy, but you want to increase the percentage that buys, and of course have more influence and more confidence in, okay, you want to be able to say, okay, it doesn't matter when, but if we speak to 10 people, we close 4 of them, essentially. And that is usually not something that a lot of businesses can say, because many businesses rely on just memory and a gut feeling on how to execute the sales process, and it's just, okay, we have a new proposal, send it out and we'll see, we'll try our best to close, but there's no real defined process in place. So what do we need to change? I've mapped out some stuff again from previous videos as well, because getting to a point where you have a process which works because of the process itself and not because of the person operating the process, is not only due to the sales process itself. There's stuff that comes in front of and before of the entirety of the sales process, and also stuff that comes after. So what we do for clients and where we kick off is we start with your like go-to market phase, which consists of your positioning and your offer. These are the fundamentals of your sales process, and will make it much more difficult, much more easy to sell later on and to get people on board into your business. So talking about that positioning and offer, I did a separate video on this specific piece of content, so I'll link that in the description as well, and I'll throw this link in there, which is the video outlining, or the document that I'm outlining in the video. So what happens, what we do is when we kick off, you need to get your offer and your positioning in place, because what is probably happening at the moment is that you look like everyone else on the market. There are a lot of businesses offering software development, and a lot of shitty businesses offering software development. I hope you're not one of them, and that you actually like deliver and create good products for your clients. But as you probably know and are familiar with, there are a lot of like cowboys with companies that have like really shitty development quality. I won't go into too much detail, but you're probably familiar with it. And your prospects aren't familiar with like the back end of those companies. They assume you are, again, one of them if they had a bad experience with those types of companies. So what we need to do is get your offer and your positioning dialed in. So what is happening at the moment? This is your dream client. So they had like some consciousness around the problem, and they know that they need to solve that problem because it's costing them a lot of money, and they need to move, and they need the money to, I don't know, grow the business, take on more employees, whatever it might be. They have a reason of buying, and that reason of buying is the outcome and the transformation that they are looking for, because they are not, your prospect is not looking for an app to be developed, or a website, or a web app, or whatever it might be that they are looking for. Of course, that is the product itself, but they need the product to get to a desired outcome. They want to save money, they want to save time, they want to increase revenue, they want to improve their customer experience, and that is the end goal that they are looking for. It's not the thing that you will build, and the thing that you will build is what a lot of businesses advertise with, or that is their positioning. We are a bespoke custom software development company. We are a web application company. We do app development, for example. That is how a lot of businesses position themselves. So what is happening? Your client has like consciousness around, okay, we need to solve this problem. They go into the market and they come across like 1, 2, 3, 4, all of these companies, and they come across you as well. And like all of these people are the same. And they are, as an example, they want to optimize processes. They are a fabrication business, and they want to optimize a process within like, I don't know, the fabrication process itself. So they need a web app where employees can log in and find all of like the data that's correlated to the process. And that's what they are looking for. So they get to, and everyone can do this. Let's assume that all of these companies deliver like good work and have good development quality. Every one of these companies is able to build that product. Also you, of course. But what happens is that because everyone is able to do so, and everyone is just like, okay, we built that software for you, it looks like there are like 10 providers of the exact same service. And what happens if that is the case is that you are seen as a commodity. You are just seen as one of many. It will lead to you getting involved in pricing competitions. It will lead to having long sales cycles, because like people, they have like, I don't know, 10 different proposals to review, and 10 different, they go like, okay, we do the first 10, then we go down to 5, then we do something else, then we go down to 3, and we want to do some trial with 2, and then we decide who we move forward with. So what we want to do is If you, let's take your business separate from all of these, because you want to dust your competition, of course. So what we are going to do is ensure that and of course you want to operate in the niche where you like have the best results, the best case studies, and that you like to work with. Essentially, that's the ideal place. And it's not saying that you need to niche down to one market, which is, it's a good thing, because if you as a business position yourself as, okay, we build out these processes for fabrication businesses dealing with these 3 problems, getting you to X outcome, then I don't have to tell you that the chances of you closing that one client are like 10 times higher. It allows you to charge more because they see more value in you and your business instead of like the 9 standardized businesses that just do software development. And that is a good place to be in. And you might think at the moment, but okay, how many businesses are there looking for that's like a problem that specific, which is of course like the volume of people that are looking for something like that is a lot smaller than the people that are just looking for software development as a whole. But it's not like I mentioned that you can just focus on that one niche. It's like, how do you propose your how do you set up your proposal, and like how do you communicate to these types of businesses? And ideally you want to get to a place where you solve like one specific type of problem, or help like more traditional old school businesses like engineering, fabrication, construction, whatever. Like if you're in that type of market, then just work with those clients, because they will pay you more, it will be easier to work with. And if you do that time and time again for those types of companies, it will be easier for them to get for you to get the results that they want, because you've done it like a lot of times before. And it's just like replicating what you have done using IP of earlier products, and will make it easier to develop, etc. So this is the positioning that we are going to work on and see like, okay, where are your case studies? What are your best, like what is the market that you want to work with and where we expect to yield the best results? And that is the positioning that we are going to allocate to your business. Like let's take our company as an example. We just work with software development companies, and we could work with, what we do is definitely not for everyone, but we could do it for many more businesses than just software development. But us being specifically focused on software development companies allows us to get deep market knowledge and to train ourselves on, okay, what is this niche and how can we help this niche the best? What are the most common problems going on within this niche, and how can we make our offer so good, and how can we make our offer so complete that we can solve as much of the problems that are like that the market is dealing with at the moment, essentially. And that is the place that you want to get to, because that allows you to charge more and to just stand out from the rest. Because an offer is not, I'll quickly go into the document because I have some offer examples, or if you are wondering at the moment. So an offer is not, like I mentioned before, the bespoke software development, etc. An offer is something like this. We help recruitment agencies increase their revenue by, and let's say this is from a case study that you've done, without adding sales staff or spending money on ads. That's something that's an offer. This doesn't mean that you are just going to help recruitment agencies, but this could be your communication within your acquisition and your outreach, for example. And if you would send like this offer to a recruitment agency, compare that to, okay, we do bespoke software development, do you want to buy from us? That's a night and day difference, and that will deliver night and day differences in results as well. So what we then do, because these are of course still assumptions and expectations, because we are going to change our positioning, but we need to test that within the market to actually validate if your target market is looking for the positioning and the offer that we have created, essentially. So how are we going to do that? It's a similar process as this, but then we do it internally for your business. So your business is here, and what you do, that's your mechanism. That's what it starts with. Like I mentioned before, your client is looking for an outcome, and those are 2 different things. So what we are going to do, we map out different value propositions based on the case studies that you have, based on the markets that you want to work with, based on the experience that you have within your company. And that could be something like this. This could be an offer, or this could be an offer. And we would insert that offer within this circle, because this is the outreach that you are going to do, and this is the offer that we are going to test in our outreach. So we are going to send that to your ideal client profile. So let's say it is engineering companies. We are going to send this to engineering companies and leverage your case studies, leverage value assets within there, and check if they are actually responding to the offer that we have. Check if there is a need within that market that we can capitalize on, essentially. If that's the case, great. If that's not the case, then we would remove this one, and then we would go on to the next one. And that could be it can still be engineering companies, because you shouldn't hop from one niche to the other if you just send a few emails or just call some people, because every niche works. If it doesn't, you just haven't spent the time on that niche to get it working. But this could just be a small rewording of this. So it could be a different case study, or it could be a different type of problem. Maybe they're not looking to increase their efficiency at the moment, but maybe they are working with tens of different types of software at the moment that don't communicate with each other, and they are looking for just a company backend, essentially, that they can log into, see all of the data in one platform instead of having to log into multiple ones. That could be something that they are looking for, but you don't know until you test that within the market and do your market research properly. So we're taking this out again, test something else. No, that's not it. And then we get to the offer that I just mentioned. And then boom, you book meetings, you get positive replies, and you know that okay, the offer that we have right now is something that we can actually get results with. That's great, because then we know that we can start leveraging and actually scaling this offer. What we do is, this is a very dialed down version of the process. We do outreach. Within that outreach, we leverage our case studies. Then we book discovery calls. What we then do is, based on the discovery calls that we book from this offer with your clients or with prospects, we kind of stabilize what we are doing, and we dive deep into the market feedback. So, okay, we got some traction with this offer, but how can we improve this? What kind of problems come with that back end that they are looking for? And if we create that back end, what kind of problems will they get from getting the outcome that they are looking for? Because if you solve one problem, they will get another, and we would need to think ahead of, okay, how can we as a software development company solve the problems that come after solving that first problem? Because if we can make our offer that complete, then you can charge even more, and your positioning will become even better, and everything will just become easier, essentially. Selling, charging, positioning. You don't have to do as much selling, because if someone sees your offer and sees the proposal and the strategies that you present to them, it's such a no-brainer, because it's so well thought out that, okay, we are solving this, and then they do this for us as well, and they do this, and they partner with us in a certain way where we have the same end goal in mind. That's so different than, okay, we are going to develop an app for you, and that's the level of detail that you need to get into. So that is the outreach phase of this entire process. And maybe you're thinking at the moment, I thought it was about sales, and it is, but this is necessary in order to make that sales process way more easy, way more fun, and to collect more cash essentially. So from this point on, we are going to transition into that sales process itself. This is a more detailed version of the sales process, and this phase is of course done within here, but I think it's good to have a visual overview of what this would look like. In our eyes, every sales process can be dialed down essentially to a 3-step process, which is, for us, the awareness phase, the exposing, and the fixment. The awareness has been done by cold outreach, which could be any of this, or this is a cold outreach example, and referrals are not, of course, an inbound too, but it's within this phase, you are creating the awareness around your business and trying to spark enough interest for someone to commit some time to get to know more about you and your company and the offer that you have and the problems that you solve. So if we compare this to what you are probably doing at the moment, that's an assumption, of course. You can't correct me if I'm wrong this time. But if we compare this, you have your first point of contact, you collect some information, and you go into a proposal. What we do is, if we get some sort of interest from any like input at the first phase, we redirect those eyeballs to dynamic sales and marketing assets that we create for our clients. And they, just to give you an example, it could be any of these things. So instead of immediately going into a conversation, we are going to pre-warm prospects, we are going to preempt objections, we are going to educate them on your offer, we are going to make sure that you build a relationship with them before you've even spoken with them, which is, of course, you need that contact time with people, and you want to, like this, you want to build as much trust as possible, and you want to do that with something that isn't dependent on you. You want to free up your time, and you don't want to just be hopping on meetings with potential prospects to have their contact time. And this is a great way to actually save you time and be different than someone else, again, because usually most companies are like operating a process like this. So they don't use any like sales and marketing assets. Maybe they send over some brochures that are like 5 years old or whatever, but you want to have stuff that is good and that is up to date and that like delivers value to your clients. Because if you can show that you are able to deliver value over just some few small documents, again, that's building more trust and authority on Autopilot without you having to speak about the topics that you can speak about in these documents. So what happens then is that based on this, prospects have the ability to disqualify themselves. So if they like go through a sales letter or a video or whatever, and they're like, okay, I don't really like this guy, or the process is not something that looks like a fit for us, they can disqualify themselves, and that will save you a lot of time on not having to speak to those customers or prospects to find out that they are not a fit. Which is something that often happens as well. You get into a call with someone, you collect their requirements, you build out some strategy, you build out a proposal, you go through the sales meeting with them, and then they need some time, and at the end they come back to you with, okay, this looks good, but we don't have any money for it. And that is, of course, something that you don't want to have happen, because that it will cost you, I'd say, at least 5 hours of your time as a founder or a senior or whatever to like do those meetings, collect the insights, build out the strategy, build out a proposal, go into a sales meeting. It's just a massive waste of time, and it's easily preventable. So what we are going to do is, if someone, and forgot to add, but on the other hand, if someone really likes your process or likes like you as a person, which is of course all needed to actually get into a successful partnership and cooperation, they can qualify themselves even further, because instead of just going through your website, they have more materials, they've seen your face, they've heard your voice, and they feel like they know you as soon as you hop on a meeting or speak to them. So if they qualify, what we then do is you go into a discovery framework, and a discovery framework is just a process where you have the option and the capabilities to collect the insights that you need to build out a good sales process, because you are a good proposal essentially. Because what you want is that the proposal that you do and the strategies and the plans that you'll make for a prospect need to hit so hard, they need to contain the exact language that they have used or are going to use within this meeting. And within here, you are going to set requirements of, okay, we need to know budget, we need to know timeline, we need to know decision makers in order to move forward to a proposal phase. Because what you can do within a meeting like this is that you, at the end, for example, you ask them a question like, okay, great, makes sense up until now. We've done this before. I know the problems that you are dealing with. But before we move forward, I need to know if you have budget for this, essentially. And of course, you're not going to ask it like that, but you build in something like that, a qualification checkpoint, where you ensure that if someone at that point says like, okay, we need this, but you guys are too expensive for us, or we can't allocate a budget like that to solving these problems, or the problems at the moment are not like top one priority, then you just disqualify them. Like, follow up a few months later to check if something has changed, but don't go into a sales process, because if you are going to quote someone 6 figures, 250K, whatever it might be, for a project, and it's on number 8 of their like problem/priority list, no one is going to spend $250,000 on something that is that low on their priority list. And you need to find that out like as soon as possible within your sales process to prevent that you waste a lot of time. Then what is great about this framework as well is that it, like, if someone new comes into the business and they have some sort of sales experience, they can take this away from you like the day they step into the company. Okay, they might need a week to become familiar with the business itself, but it's so easy. Like, all of the information that you need is within that framework, and they can just take that framework away, watch a few training videos, because we always make those for our clients. We create the discovery framework, we create all of the training modules that you need to successfully operate that framework, and then they can like take that part away, and they can remove you from like collecting all of the requirements, collecting like what is a priority, is there a budget, whatever. What they can then do is, if this has been done successfully, they can just like conduct a good discovery and like pass that on to you. It's just, okay, put it in the CRM, whatever you want, whatever your preference is, like compromise the information into like the actual needed stuff to build out a proposal, and pass that on to your senior or to you as a founder, and this has been removed from you entirely. So implementing, because I don't know if you do it at the moment, a lot of companies like don't have a like defined process for this. Again, it's the founder hopping on a call, he knows what needs to happen, or she, and like it's just that gut feeling and that memory that you keep on operating on, but that's of course not ideal. So you need to implement a like defined and structured process like this to be able to step out of this part of the process. So then on to the next. If you get this information, and this would be like right here, we're getting into the final 20 to 40% essentially, because usually at the moment a lot of the founders still do some cold calling, still send some emails, and you need to step into like the first phase of the process itself. We take that away for clients. This is like, you don't even have to think about this. Meetings are being booked, you have new opportunities coming in on a daily basis, we pass them on to you or on to sales. This is covered, this is handled. Now if we would start, then you still might be, for example, responsible for the discovery framework, but essentially you want to get into a phase where you hand this off to someone else as well, which is something that we assist with too, by building out these training modules and by providing recruitment support for new salespeople. Then you get into that final, like I mentioned, 20 to 40%, where you, for this proposal, for the proposal framework, you want to make it generic, but it needs to be personalized. What you can then do is have someone more junior build out like the proposal framework, and that's the generic stuff. So change the names, change the logos, change the goals, whatever, and then you just step into to like go through the case and provide your deep product knowledge on, okay, what kind of strategy would we do, what kind of advice would I like, what would I advise this prospect to do, what do they want to do, but what is like total overkill, or what are they missing, what do they need but aren't aware of at the moment, and you just step into this phase to provide that information essentially, and you build out like the high level and the detailed framework and the proposal in order to get to the final phase of that sales process essentially. What we also do and what we also incorporate for our clients is especially if you're speaking to bigger businesses, you are not always going to get face time with other stakeholders and other people that are needed to make a decision. So what you can do is, instead of just sending over your proposal or presenting and please don't send over a proposal before a meeting, go through a proposal on a meeting. You don't want to send it and have someone, because what people do, they open it on their phone, scroll down to the last page, check the pricing, and they're like, ooh, 250K, damn, that's a lot of money, without having seen like the rest of the information that's within there. If you handle this on a meeting before, you can convey the value, you can show them, you can tell them, you can do your pitch, then get to pricing, after that send it over. So if you are at the moment sending out proposals without hopping on a meeting, stop that, book in a meeting, like after a discovery call. If you're like, okay, this company is a fit, get a new meeting in the diary, in your calendar, and in that meeting, go through that proposal. So what we then do is, if you won't get FaceTime with all of the needed decision makers, which is again something that you handle within the discovery call, so you ask people like, okay, for our next meeting, I'd like to schedule that in because I think we can help you guys. I'm going to outline the plans and the strategy for you. Do we need to bring on someone else, or are you the one to green light it, essentially? That's something that you handle within the discovery framework. But again, like I mentioned, especially if you're speaking to bigger businesses, you're not going to have like 7 people from the management team hopping on one meeting. So for the proposal, you are going to record a quick video. It doesn't have to be quick, can be in detail as well, running through that proposal and like speaking to the people that you are not going to speak to. Because what you will prevent from happening is that, like, for example, the COO will just like forward the proposal to the CEO or whoever will become involved, and without any context, and with them just doing like some high level notes that they've written down during your meeting. You are going to create a video where you talk like to someone else directly and like show your value, convey your value, and actually like you pitching your product and pitching your strategy will be way more valuable than the COO doing it, essentially. So from there on, you get into the final phase, and of course you'll have extra meetings, you'll have follow-ups, they will need more information. You'll have like the contract phase, they want to change something about the contract, but that's not like a set part within this process, because that's really dependent on who are you speaking to and what is the size of the project, etc. So for the final phase, what we like and what we teach our clients is, if you get to this phase, there shouldn't be any hard selling. Like, you want to get to a place where you're like, okay, in my eyes, like sales is just helping someone to make the right decision. So if you get to this phase and you need like fancy sales closing techniques and all the tricks from different books, then you've done something wrong. There's a phase within your process where you messed up, essentially. In this phase, it's just like, okay, this looks good. This is the strategy that we need. We don't miss anything in here. There's nothing superfluous. This is exactly what we need, and you can just do a logical close. It's like, okay, this is the price. This is what you'll get. This is the outcomes that we are working towards. Let's start, because we both think that this will get the results that we are both looking for, instead of having to do like whatever sort of sales technique and whatever like use specific words and all of that fancy stuff. If that's needed within this phase, you've messed up, essentially. So that final phase is usually quite easy. It's just like I mentioned, okay, this looks good. We want to move forward because we've covered so much. There might be some final questions. If you're speaking to technical people, they might want to know some details on like, how do you collect this? How do you structure this? What is the process behind this? But that's something that's normal to happen. That's normal, and that's not like a selling technique or whatever. It's just, especially technical people usually want a lot of details on that side, and financial people want to go more into the ROI and whatever. But that's not atypical to happen. So Again, that's a good overview of the process itself. And of course, like I mentioned, we build out this entire process and this system for our clients. But then we are still not done. We have some after sales, which is of course a process of after the sales has been done, within the first 48 hours of someone buying, that is like the time frame that they have on, do we kind of regret this decision, or are we like going into this partnership and into this cooperation with like full force and really excited? So what we do is we search for quick wins for our clients. We identify like what are quick wins that you can deliver within 48 hours. So for your business, just have a think about, okay, if someone buys from me, what kind of quick win can I deliver within the first 48 hours and definitely within the first week? You can't like deliver a project or you can't deliver the entire UX for a product, whatever, but just have a think about, okay, what is something of value that I can deliver to my new client within that first 48-hour time frame. Think of, I don't know, it could be something simple as introductions to your network. It could be something like, I don't know, a standardized thing, but change some things and it looks like something of value that's specifically made for them. Just have a think about that and implement that, because you will make the after sales process a lot easier. And of course, there's more to after sales, but that's like the primary thing to just focus on right now, because I don't want to prolong this video for another 30 minutes. Then we get into the scaling phase. That is an important phase of like your business and what we do, because you get to a point, every business needs to grow and wants to grow. But what usually happens is that implementing something like this in such detail and like going so deep into all of these topics usually is new for a lot of the businesses that we work with, because what we do goes really in depth and it just contains a lot of stuff and a lot of details. But then if you have implemented this stuff and you've operated it for like 3 months, for example, you want to get to a point where you can be removed from like the entirety of this process and you just want to grow further. It could be that you like want to grow your enterprise value, grow your revenue, or that you as a founder or a senior need to move into a different role. So you want to get detached from this sales process. Then what we are going to do is look into the scaling strategy, and the biggest part of that is systemizing this entire process and ensuring that we get new salespeople on board to operate this process. So what is the key to systemizing this? Again, I've spoken about it in the beginning of the video, I think, but we need to get this out of your head. It can't live within your brain if someone else needs to operate it. So it needs to be clearly documented. Every step, every training, every module needs to be documented and needs to be put on paper. So we need to capture like the best bits of, this is how we've done this for years, because usually that's how people operate. This is just how we've done it for the past 10 years. We need to ensure that we capture the best bits of that and get rid of the stuff that you don't need. And then from there on, we can document it. We can like map out the entire process, and we can start creating the assets that we need. So what we usually do is for our clients and for the entire process, we map out like, okay, what is the difference between someone coming from a cold call, a cold email, and LinkedIn? How do you handle those? What kind of assets do you send? How do you leverage those assets? What kind of message do you send with it? How do you handle that came from inbound, someone from inbound? How do you handle referrals? What do you need to send to them? Because everyone needs a different approach. We map out this for clients. We collect the frequently asked questions. So we go through your sales calls and we search for like, okay, what questions come back frequently and how do we incorporate them into these sales assets to ensure that you essentially after you've done your sales pitch, it should be like, someone should be like, okay, they have covered so much and in such good detail that I don't have any questions left. You need to turn every stone, and you can do so by going through your sales calls, reviewing your discoveries, and just seeing what comes back often and preempt that. That's something that we do. Then we create the discovery, so the framework itself and the training modules, etc., etc. So just from A to Z, map out the entire process and create the training modules for your sales process. And what allows that to do is that as soon as someone comes into the business, you can just point them towards that training database instead of having to handhold them, and instead of having to teach them, having them to hop on every call and listen and whatever it might be. They just have that entire training database. Usually it's anywhere between 2 to 4 weeks, and then in that time frame they can familiarize themselves with the process that you have. So that is a very, we're 45 minutes in, so that is a very detailed breakdown of this process itself. This was a lot of information, so please take away, again, the best bits of this video, and it could be that you have some stuff from this process already implemented, but I hope you got some value from it at least, and that you might have some new ideas on, okay, we can improve and we can iterate our process in a specific way with something from this video. If you're like, okay, this is way too much work for me to implement myself, and I want to know more of my thoughts on your process, then feel free to reach out. I'm happy to jump on a call and do some digging into the goals that you have, the growth goals, and like the stuff that you are struggling with. So that's it for this video, and I'm looking forward to see you in the next one. Thank you.